Thank you for joining us this evening with our Say Her Name, Justice for Breonna Town Hall. You're going to be joined by a list of incredible special guests. We really appreciate you being here, taking the time to raise the awareness of yourself and those around you. I want to remind everybody as we get started that there will be a Q&A at the end. We'd love to hear from you. So feel free to share your questions by commenting in the streams, whether you're joining us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, or wherever you're finding us. And also take this time and throughout to share the live stream with your folks, whether that's posting about it, inviting people. You can also host a watch party on Facebook Live, I understand. In the meantime, make sure you're also following us, all these incredible organizations that are putting this and so much incredible work together on the ground around the country, and tonight in particular in Louisville. Make sure you're following BLM Louisville, Movement for Black Lives, Advancement Project. We'll also provide links to those so that you can stay connected, informed, and continue to participate with us. My name is Jesse Williams. I am an actor, director, I'm an activist. I'm also a board member on Advancement Project National Office. Today, I'm just going to run through some of the folks that are kind enough to join us tonight. That includes incredible actress, singer, television host, Tracee Ellis Ross. We have our executive director at the Advancement Project National Office, that's Judith Brown-Dianis, a hero of mine. We have Breonna Taylor's loving aunt, Bianca Austin, who's kind enough to join us and share her insights and experiences tonight. Chanel Helm, leader in Black Lives Matter Louisville. She's incredible and gonna break it all down for us, what's happening on the ground in Louisville and how we can be of service. We also have my friend and co-star, incredible actress and director, producer Ellen Pompeo. We have my brother Jay Ellis, who you all know from so many things, including Insecure, one of our favorite shows. We're also going to be joined this evening by the mayor of Louisville. Mayor Greg Fischer has agreed to join us, talk to us, share his thoughts, experiences, and also submit to a few questions from us, because we certainly have a few. We're also lucky enough to be joined by the incredible Leslie Mack, who is a very experienced and outstanding activist and community organizer for Black Women 4, most recently. Tahasha Holloway, another aunt of Breonna Taylor, is kind enough to spend her time with us this evening. My very good friend and co-worker Chandra Wilson is with us this evening as well. We also have award-winning actress and director Regina King. Tessa Thompson is with us this evening. Thank you so much. ACLU of Kentucky and also Black Lives Matter Louisville member Kentura Heron is with us tonight. And then our last three participants include Chelsea Fuller, who is an Advancement Project alum. She's also Senior Communications Manager at Blackbird. Constant award winner, and my friend Sterling K. Brown, incredible actor, is with us tonight. And last but not least is a fellow Advancement Project board member and founder of the SOZE agency, Daniel Leon Davis. So tonight, I want to dive right in by focusing directly on who gathered us together and galvanized the energy of a nation, and that is Breonna Taylor. So Tracee Ellis Ross is going to talk to us a little bit about Breonna's story and take us through that fateful evening and a little bit more about who she is and was. Tracee?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. So who was Breonna Taylor and what happened? Breonna Taylor would have turned 27 years old this past Friday. She was a dedicated EMT and a caring, goofy big sister, a daughter, a niece, a godmother, and a friend. She loved her family and friends. Breonna was months away from enrolling in fall classes for work in a trauma unit or at a neonatal ICU. Her family knew Breonna as someone full of life who always went above and beyond. Her mother, Tamika Palmer, said about Breonna, all she cared about was being great and helping people. Before March 13th, Tamika worried for her daughter's safety as an essential healthcare worker, not for her safety in her own bed. These are the details that we know about that evening. They're hard for me to read. I will share them. At 12:40 a.m. on March 13th, 3 plainclothes police officers burst into Breonna Taylor's apartment with a battering ram. They didn't announce themselves because they had a no-knock search warrant, which I know we'll talk more about. Fearing a home invasion, Breonna's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, fired one shot from his registered gun. The cops fired at least 30 shots into the apartment, shooting Breonna 8 times and killing her. Kenneth called Breonna's mother and 911 as he was sobbing over her. And on the call, he pleaded for her to breathe and cried out repeatedly, "Oh my God," and continued to say that she needed help. But help was not coming because the police had taken the position that she was a criminal. Police arrested Kenneth, her boyfriend, for shooting at them, and he was put in jail for 3 weeks at the height of COVID-19 when people in America were looking to release people from incarceration. He now has been released without prejudice, meaning that they can still file charges against him at any time. The officers were looking for someone else, someone who had already been taken into custody from another search miles away. They were not wearing body cameras. When her mother went to Breonna's apartment, she was sent to the hospital to look for her daughter, even though Breonna was still inside the apartment. When her mother came back after being at the hospital for an extended amount of time, the officers asked her mother if she knew anyone who would want to hurt her daughter. The 3 Louisville Police Department detectives, Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove, have been placed on administrative leave from the department placed on administrative leave while the department investigates what happened that night. No one has been fired or arrested for Breonna's killing, and the FBI is also investigating. Those are the details.
Thank you, Tracee. Thank you. Next, we are going to hear from Judith Brown-Dianis, who's going to take us through some context regarding those no-knock warrants specifically that we're hearing so much about, both locally and nationally. So, Judy?
Thank you. So I want to break down a little bit about no-knock warrants. Most people can't imagine that your home could be invaded by the police. No-knock warrants happen when police officers ask a judge for permission to break into your home and search your house. Cops routinely lie when they ask a judge for the right to knock down your door, and judges don't even read carefully what cops wrote. Studies show that magistrates spend an average of 2 minutes and 48 seconds before approving a warrant. Cops are supposed to only ask for this kind of dangerous warrant when there are serious dangers to others. However, in a review of no-knock warrants in Little Rock by journalist Radley Balco, it revealed that cops failed to cite any serious danger 92% of the time. The judges still signed the warrants. Judges almost never tell cops no. They do this an estimated 20,000 times a year. They use this violent action overwhelmingly on Black and brown people. Cops take SWAT teams with them. They wear armor and they are armed like it's war. They use battering rams or explosives to knock down the door. And when they destroy your door, they don't tell you they are the police. They routinely hurt or kill people when they do it. For example, in Detroit, people may remember the police murdered 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones when she slept on her grandmother's couch during a no-knock raid in 2010. Police in Georgia threw a flashbang grenade into the crib of a 19-month-old toddler who was severely burned and placed in a coma to save her life in 2014. Police in California shot and killed an 11-year-old boy during a no-knock raid in 2011. Police in Kylene, Texas shot Marvin Guy when 20 rifle-bearing SWAT officers broke down his door in the middle of the night and he returned fire protecting himself. South Carolina police murdered Julian Benton, shooting him 9 times in his own home. The police claimed they had announced themselves. Video footage proved they were lying. These dangerous, unnecessary raids kill and injure thousands of people every year. Breonna Taylor is the most recent person who was killed by police during a no-knock warrant. Unless we end no-knock raids, the next Breonna Taylor is right around the corner. Never again.
Jesse, you're muted.
The first person to speak on mute of the night. Thank you, Judy. Our ability to be able to be really informed about no-knocks, both in Louisville specifically, but across the country, is a very integral part of the conversation around policing, around our safety, around our security, and our ability to live as free people in this country. So that context is critical, and we'll be providing more of that in writing for you at Advancement Project, Social, and other places this evening. I'd like to keep the program going by bringing on Breonna's family member, and we can talk to her aunt, Bianca Austin. I'd love to hear from her on her memories of Breonna, sharing who she was, talking about her, as well as her vision for what justice looks like. It couldn't be more personal to her. So we'd like to hear not only how she can be remembered, but how we can gather ourselves in a productive way going forward. Ms. Austin.
Hello, everyone. Like I said, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. And we want to thank everybody for just using their platform to get Breonna's name out there and being a voice for her and making everybody say her name. So that's important. What I will tell you about Breonna, she's just a fun-loving, spunky little kid. Grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, just full of life. We moved here from Grand Rapids, and well, she did. She moved here when she was about 14 years old. She was a sophomore in high school, to correct you. She went to Western High School. And, you know, we was worried that she wouldn't fit in or she wouldn't like it. And day home from school, we asked, like, how was your day? You know, just meeting friends. And she said, I'm a genius here. I love it here. And from there, we knew, like, she was going to be all right. She was going to be all right. I can just tell you, she was a girly girl. She loved to get her hair done. She loved to put on some cute clothes and just have a good time, just hanging out with family, her friends, her little cousins, just everybody. And when she was always late to every gathering. That was to be expected. But when she came and she finally showed up, she was the life of the party. She was the one that brought everybody together. And that's what we want everybody to remember her, is the person who's going to bring us all together. As far as like justice, sorry.
Your time. Take your time.
Okay.
As far as justice, you know, we want people to be held accountable because she just did not deserve the way she went out. You know, here's it a kid who did everything right. She did right by people. She was a hard worker. She worked 2 jobs. You know, she was just living life. She was doing everything right, and it's just sad that was just taken from her. And we want people to be held accountable. You know, we feel like the Louisville justice system has failed us. I mean, this whole situation, from the judge, police officers, EMTs, This woman was an EMT and she never received medical attention. You know what I mean? So we want people to be held accountable, and we want people in leadership to just step up and just do what's right. Not only for Breonna, but just moving forward, just do right by people. Like, this should have never happened. Breonna should still be here to celebrate her 27th birthday. She should still be here to celebrate her fiance's birthday, which is tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Happy birthday, nephew. It's just really sad. And we're going to miss her, and like I said, we just want to thank everybody, for the support. That's what just keeps us going, and just give us the will to get up every day and, just to keep her name alive. And we will get justice for Breonna. So, and I'm just going to end with that.
That's absolutely right. We will. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. We are going to, thank you. People need to hear directly from you. It makes a world of difference. Thank you so much. We're going to continue now. And we're going to continue to Chanel Helm of Black Lives Matter Louisville. We're also joined, and we'll hear from later, incredible actress Taylor Page, who's with here beside me, who also, full disclosure, is my girlfriend. So I'm happy to have her joining us today as well. Chanel Helm, can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening on the ground, what you've seen as the on-the-ground response on both sides, and where things stand in terms of our road towards justice, where you're seeing inroads, where you're seeing progress, and where you're seeing our key obstacles we could be focusing our energy on.
Thank you, Jesse. And thank you, Bianca. I love y'all. It's been amazing, this moment in the movement right now. I'm seeing people Breonna's age and younger actually feel the streets in this moment. And I think with the coronavirus on top, we're watching many things happen at the same time, but this war on Black people has just exacerbated itself with the many killings that we've seen in the last 3 months since things got shut down. I think that's fueling a lot of what we see in the streets. What was it, 2 weeks ago, and they're still going hard. They have different actions all over the city, in just about every neighborhood, celebrations for our people. In the West End, and making sure the mayor has some wake-up calls, certain times of the night, and disrupting other areas that want to stay blindly to like what is taking place in Black areas of the city. So on our side, and I mean the side of Black and brown folks fighting against injustice and fighting for dignity, we're doing really well. People have come together. One of the grocery stores decided to close down. We created a business like overnight, being able to feed almost like at least a quarter of the population on that side of the city. We live in food deserts, so another place where we're policed around like what we can eat and what we can't eat. And the kids are taking that to the streets too. They're lifting that up as they lift up Breonna and all the folks that have been murdered by police. What has been interesting is the opposition, the city, and just other players. As we're moving through this. We're seeing people who we never thought we'd see say Black Lives Matter, and just holding them accountable to that. It's one thing to make a graphic and pop it up on your website, but do you really mean it? Do you really mean it for the employees that you have, these essential workers that work the front line, but not in the hospital, at the Family Dollars, at the grocery stores? So we're challenging them on a ton of levels. People are hitting us up every day, feeling empowered, being able to call out the racism too. And I think that's a new leaf for Louisville. We don't get that a lot. And so people really feel good being able to live with a different back on them. The other thing that's been really tremendous to see is people come around the family's demands, but also this foundation that needs to be set. And you see us with the No More No Knocks. We were just here like listening to folks changing votes about that, about to get this Breonna's law. So we throwing down. And we're just thankful like everybody is supporting. Everybody is hitting up their council members and just really giving it to them in a way that, you know, we talk about respectability, but we also are talking about some real things that are happening in real time and how it's no longer a game. People's lives are being lost and we're being put in jeopardy around many facets of this. The other thing that's been moving along is getting subpoena power around a citizens review board, something that's been a tremendous fight here in Kentucky for almost 20 years. And then I think the releasing of the 911 tape kind of really threw it into gear. Hearing Bianca, and you'll hear Tasha later talk about that, how just a disregard, I think, is the main thing. And so now people are telling their stories, and that's something that a lot of people didn't feel confident to do. And we have more stories that are being told. So we're really excited about where this is going, and just getting a lot of things done. But I mean, we really need cops that decide to be judge and jury and executioner on the streets fired. They no longer protect and serve, because we know they never protected and served our communities anyway. So we want to send a message not only to police forces, but also other law enforcement agencies and their superiority complex in this militarized nation state that they've built for themselves, that it's not okay, and you just cannot continue to force us to mind a misguided system that isn't supporting anybody. So I think a lot of work that we've been doing here lately is really looking at our budgets around like what needs to be defunded. We've already removed police officers from our district schools, and that was just one step, and it also jilted our city's budget. And so they're battling that again, but we're really looking at like what these police contracts hold and standard operating procedures around keeping keeping police officers in their positions.
Thank you, Chanel. All right, but we are actually going to be speaking. It's interesting you mentioned the mayor. We'll be speaking to Mayor Greg Fischer in a few moments. Before that, I'd like to have Jay Ellis join us and share some of his thoughts and feelings in a letter to Breonna.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, guys. Breonna Taylor, you were a daughter, a godmother, a niece, a girlfriend, and a best friend. You were an EMT who worked tirelessly to take care of others in their time of need, even as the COVID pandemic hit Louisville. Your life was a celebration of friendship and of love. And today, here and around the world, we honor your legacy as we take to the streets to chant your name, to celebrate your 27th birthday, and to demand justice be served for you and our countless other Black sisters who have been erased from the conversation. In your honor, we are fighting for a world where no Black family has to lose a daughter to police violence ever again. We will forever say your name, Breonna Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Sounds beautiful. Thank you. Now, I believe we're going to be joined by Mayor Fischer. Are you here, sir? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So let's get right to it. I think we'd all like to get a sense of an update on what exactly is holding up the arrest of these officers.
Okay, well, first, thanks, Chanel, for getting me on the call here. Where the case is right now, and first off, I want to thank Bianca, who shared Breonna's story here. I'm the father of 4 adult children, and, to think what would happen to any of my kids, what happened to Breonna, obviously, is just not right. Where the challenge we have in Kentucky, and I know folks don't like to hear this, is there's a legal system in place that guides this. So here's where we're at right now. The case was given to the Attorney General 3 weeks ago. It was substantially complete. That means 95%. So he's got more than enough to get started on. Yesterday, LMPD met with the Attorney General. There's 2 remaining pieces of information that are needed that come from third parties, a phone company, and then ballistics as well. So there's nothing to hold the case up right now. So it's up to him. He will decide what criminal charges would be filed in a case like this. A lot of people have called on me to fire the police officers. If I did that, it would be an illegal termination, which means that they would be put back on the job with back pay and a cause for damages, and possibly screwing up the criminal charges going against them from the Attorney General. That's guided by state law, KRS 67C. So one of the things that we're doing, Chanel mentioned it earlier, the police civilian review, working with our state legislators to see if these laws can be changed at the state level, which dictate what we can do at the local level. Asking people to be patient through this is a wholly unsatisfactory type of request. People are tired of being patient, but we've got this framework that we have to live in that now, at least I'm changing some of my energy to work on that along with this police civilian review board. So I've got to exercise my time and energy to where it can actually change the process. And I don't want to create expectations for people that I'm all powerful that can make all these things happen. But what I can do is, ask the FBI and the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney to review the case as I have. So when the facts come out, they're the facts as best anybody knows them. So that's where the case is at right now with the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron. He is not given a time frame on how long it was going to take him to review the case. So obviously we'd like to have that information. And then coincident with that is just the whole need for police reform. We're doing a top to bottom review of our police department by an outside agency that were part of President Obama's 21st century policing practices. So we can understand the weaknesses, the strengths, and our opportunities for improvement as we look for a new chief here. Then we also have what's called a Sentinel review that's funded by the Department of Justice, which is a specific look at this case from the very beginning, from before the warrants were written all the way through the very end. What took place? What were the mistakes? How can they be avoided in the future? So we can understand fully what we went on. So that's it kind of from the cold analytical side of it. From the personal side of Breonna's family, and the community pain that's out here. I mean, obviously, none of this is cold comfort, right? I mean, what's going on in our streets to me, although I'm an older white guy, is stuff that I find very hopeful in terms of what it's going to end to leading for change here in our country that's long, long overdue. I've done a lot of my work in this area, and it's the reason why I ran for office. And hopefully by the time I'm done, we'll see the kind of change that people deserve. So that's where things are at in Louisville right now. And unfortunately, I've got 40 mayors waiting for me at 8 o'clock. So I got to jump off here unless there's one question or so that I can take.
Thank you very much. And that speaks to what we're talking about in terms of accountability and what are within the rules and what are beyond the rules. So you're saying it's entirely on the AG to file for an arrest. And then in terms of your termination, there are protections in place through the police unions and laws that need to be addressed specifically. So last thing I would ask you is, what does justice look like for you? If you had your druthers, what does justice look like and how would it be carried out in this particular case?
Two things. I mean, one on this case is that, the AG takes the facts of this case and comes back with whatever his explanation is. It's like, here's what happened. Here's who was wrong. Here's the charges that are going to be filed that come out of that, where people in the community say, okay, that makes sense, what he's saying. If he comes out with something that doesn't make sense, that's a problem. Secondly, the broader sense of what justice looks like is, longer term in nature. One is that when the police or when the community looks at police, they see ethical policing, they see guardianship, they don't see warriorship as well, and that they feel like they're part of making a city safe, and they feel like every one of our African American and brown brothers and sisters can look at the future and say there's no impediments in the way. So dismantling systemic racism is a long, long journey, but it can start with some small steps. So to me, being able to look at this now on Breonna's case and in the bigger picture, if that's all underway by that time I'm done, that would look like justice to me. Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
I'll take care.
All right, so that's Mayor Fischer joining us. Now we're going to go to Leslie Matt for some framing around Say Her Name and Breonna.
Thanks, Jesse. Tanisha Anderson, Rakia Boyd, Miriam Carey, Michelle Cousseau, Shelley Fry, Eleanor Bumpus, Taisha Miller, Latanya Haggerty, Margaret Mitchell, Tarika Wilson. These are the names you may not know. All are Black women. All were killed by law enforcement. While Black, trans, and cis women, gender nonconforming, and non-binary Black folks are on the front lines of this latest fight against white supremacy, we have also watched the erasure of police violence we have faced as a community. In 2015, the African American Policy Forum launched Say Her Name, which included a detailed report about police violence against Black women and a nationwide day of action led by organizations like Black Youth Project 100. That year saw the loss of Alexia Christian, Megan Hockaday, Maya Hall, Janisha Fonville, and Natasha McKenna at the hands of police. Police violence against Black women extends beyond our deaths at the hands of the state. We are routinely raped and beaten by police, yet we are rarely the focus of discussions about police brutality. In New York City, for example, the rates of racial disparities for stop and frisk are identical for Black men and Black women, and even higher for our Black trans siblings and gender nonconforming folks. The time to shine a light is now. We have watched as Black transgender women like Kayla Moore are verbally harassed, misgendered, and killed by police. Say her name. The time to act is now. We have watched as families of Black women like India Kager, killed by police in Virginia Beach, fight for justice with little widespread support. Say her name. The time to defund the police is now. When Black women are excluded from these conversations and narratives in our organizing work, it gives permission for the media, for advocates, and researchers to do the same. Say Her Name calls for a gender-inclusive movement against police violence. It calls us all to widen the scope of our work and ensure that all police violence is brought to light, that all victims of police brutality are centered in this fight, that all families are supported. I'm so honored to be here tonight to lift up the life of Breonna Taylor, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a niece, a Black woman dedicated to supporting her community. As you will hear shortly, we are calling for collective action. Justice for Breonna is justice for the Say Her Name movement. Now is the time to take action together. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Judith Brown Dianis, and I'm Executive Director of the National Office of Advancement Project. And I, too, am honored to be here to say her name, Breonna Taylor. And I'm going to bring into conversation a group of sisters so we can talk about these issues around Say Her Name and the erasure of Black women. I'm going to bring into this conversation Tahasha Holloway, auntie to Breonna Taylor, and Chanel Helm from Black Lives Matter Louisville, and Regina King and Chandra Wilson who neither one of whom probably need a lot of introduction. We have seen them and we have loved them over the years and all the work that they've done. And I want to thank you all for joining us this evening and using your platform in this conversation. So I want to start with Tahasha, because part of like the Say Your Name work is around this idea that Black women are erased so we don't get our stories told. So what do you want people to know about Breonna?
I just want people to know how much of a lovely person she was, and how much, and that like she was just everything. Like she just was like such a great spirit, such a great human being. Not just because she's my niece or anything, but she just was an awesome human being. Like she really cared for people, and she really liked all her friends. Or anybody, if she could help you, she would help you. She was a straight shooter. Like she told you the truth, and if she told you the truth in a way that rubbed you the wrong way or anything, you could always go to her and she'd be like, I apologize, but I still mean what I said. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I probably could have chose my words a little better, but I meant, if she felt like you needed to hear something, she would tell you, and she just was a really good person. She's a whole vibe, a whole mood. Like when she's around, like it's a happy time. It's not. I'm sorry.
What were her, tell us about like her hopes and dreams.
Her hopes and dreams was to like, she was really probably, I think probably this fall, yeah, because we had talked about her going back to school for nursing. She just was like in the debate, does she want to spend the money and become more, because she was very much so financially aware. Like for her to be young, she's very much so financially responsible. Like from young, like she always like knew about her credit and all that stuff. So she just was thinking like, do I really want to become more in debt with going to school? And I just was like telling her that the biggest investment is to invest in yourself, and that's something you want to do. And her being a nurse, I knew she would be great at that, and she was just looking forward to like buying her house, her and Kenny starting their family and stuff like that. She wanted to start having kids and and getting married and all that type of stuff, and just like living her life and just living it to the fullest, like just like being responsible, just like being like coming together and stuff, just like I don't know.
So for the family, can you talk a little bit about what justice looks like? I mean, we just heard from the mayor, and what's your kind of reaction to that, and what you want people to be doing also?
Well, with the mayor, like I don't know, because I just feel like a lot of what he's saying to me is like he's talking around in circles to me. Like I feel like sometimes the things I don't know if he's being condescending or if he's like, I don't know if he's being genuine in the things he's saying, because I don't feel like he's really saying too much of anything. Like I feel like even today he made a post about George Floyd and this world changing, and about what happened to him wasn't right and stuff like that, and getting justice for him and stuff. But still, he have not even done what the mayor over in Minnesota done to those cops. He's yet to do any of that. So I don't understand where did that come from, like, and stuff, like, because you have an opportunity to do the same thing, but you have yet to take those, and you talk in circles. So I don't really understand that. Justice to me is firing those cops and charging them, that search warrant, when you lie to get that search warrant, it becomes illegal. So I don't understand when he say there's no grounds to fire him. So what is the grounds to fire him then?
Right.
Because I really don't get that.
So I'm gonna bring Chanel in here. Chanel, just wanna ask you, I mean, I've noticed from the marches across the country that the framing of this moment has been mostly about George Floyd. And there have been marches, I think in the past few days, I feel like there's been more energy around Breonna. Has it been difficult from the side of like the organizing activism to lift her up? And what do you think we could be doing that would shift that, like beyond this, right? Beyond this moment, what should we be doing to shift it?
Unfortunately, always. And that hurts a lot because as a Black femme, a Black woman, someone who survived police terrorism myself, you think about that in these moments, right? And it's not to erase anybody else, but it's to also think about your own life as a Black person. If something was to happen to me, and it did happen to me, how do we lift that up when we take that for granted? And how, and I feel Tasha right now, our mayor just, I'm glad he joined the call so people could see how, how much bull he just spit out when you didn't say anything March 13th. You didn't say anything 2 weeks later when Jesse Stringfield died, but also, you're talking about your kids, and we're talking about Black women being murdered, women being assaulted by LMPD officers. It's hard that we have to make these conversations happen, right? And I'm thankful for the folks that jumped on this call because that was exactly what I had envisioned. We've got to make sure that people understand that Say Her Name wasn't just a campaign because, it was catchy. It was a campaign because we erased what happens to Black femmes, Black trans women, Black women, Black gender queer folks when they're killed by state violence. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be lifting that up all the time. We should be making sure that we're safe. We should be making sure that we keep us safe as well, and making sure that there's community defense around law enforcement, because we know how they are. And I'm sorry for Bianca and Tasha that y'all had to see that post that was so fallacious because like the city, they're in between it themselves right now, right? They just can't even believe at the nature at which these young folks and everybody's come together to lift up the corruption here between the city and LMPD around not only this case, but just other cases. And I think in this moment, we're setting something right here, right? I love that Leslie read out other names of folks, and I know people were like, who? And when you see them.
Right, people are like, who? What? Didn't hear about them, right? Because this is a continuous thing. And I mean, I want to bring Regina in and Chandra, and start Regina and then Chandra, if you could answer. So this erasure, right? Like, why should people be concerned about that? And what is your sense of what we could be doing differently so that Black women are recognized and lifted up and not erased? So Regina and then Chandra.
Well, first, thank you for having me and letting me be a part of this. I feel so many emotions just like everyone else. So forgive me if it sounds like I'm jumping all over the place because there's a lot coming up for me. When Jesse reached out to me about this call, I think the first thing that I thought was, wow, finally, because, Black women are the most marginalized human beings on the planet. And if you don't believe that, just listening to the names that Leslie Mack read off, and that even the Black people on this call, a lot of us had never heard those names. And that's heartbreaking. With Breonna Taylor's murder, it's interesting because I don't have a consistent presence on social media, and because of the COVID going on, it was just so much noise, and so I just was not really looking at social media that often. But I use Flipboard, and headlines pop up on my phone. And what's interesting is not until George Floyd did I even know about Breonna. That's like, that doesn't make any sense. And how I knew about the protests that happened in Louisville only because on my Flipboard it popped up, but it didn't say anything about Breonna. All it said was 9 people or 7 people shot in protests in Louisville. That's all it was. So I'd never opened the message of the article that popped up. And so then I saw that a month ago. I guess that was maybe a week or however long it was after Breonna's murder. And then George Floyd has happened. And that's when I go on to social media and on Twitter specifically, and I see a couple people say, you know, and Breonna Taylor just happened. And I'm like, Breonna Taylor, you know, I didn't know about it. And then I typed her name into the search engine on Twitter, and still nothing came up about the woman, Breonna Taylor. I had to do a dive on Google to find out what happened about her, and that was infuriating because I'm like, here we are again. It took that to happen to George Floyd for people to remember that to bring up Breonna Taylor's name from a month ago. Why is it that I knew about Ahmaud Arbery and I knew about George Floyd without being on social media and not hear about Breonna? That's a big pill that Black women have to swallow every single day. The way our stories are captured in the media, if they are captured, things are missed out. Thankfully, we have Bianca and her aunt Tiasha. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Telling us about the woman that she is. We wouldn't know about it because no one is writing about it. Mm-hmm. So right now, to the question of how do we change that, it's our responsibility, I guess, as a human race to change, to speak, to say her name, to say a Black woman's name whenever this happens, and never stop saying it. But it's going to take people with platforms to, I guess, inspire people to do that. And that sounds ridiculous. I just, you know, when I say that out loud, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around saying you have to inspire people to want to speak the name of a life. And Chanel, I appreciate you so much for you banging out there, girl. Thank you so much for what you're doing, sis.
Yeah. So Chandra, I want to bring you into the same kind of question of,
yes.
So why should we be concerned, and what can we do to lift up names like Breonna Taylor?
Absolutely. Tahasha and Bianca, thank you so much for bringing humanity into the conversation, because that is the thing that is missing in our policing. And going forward, as we talk about reform and defunding, humanity is the thing that has to be in the forefront of all of that. Breonna cannot have passed away, cannot have been murdered, cannot have died in vain. Going forward, especially here in Louisville, is where we can start. That humanity gets instilled in the police department in her name, that you don't forget in policing that you're dealing with human beings in her name, that the whole idea of no knock, no goodness, no knock in itself is inhumane, because it means that the bust is more important than the human beings that you are going to encounter. So in policing, in training, when it gets to the point that you have seen so much out there, and I don't doubt that is the case in policing. I'm sure the responsibility of that job and the doing of that job is so, no cursing, is so hard, and that pieces of your soul could potentially be taken away from the things that you see. But even with that, you cannot forget that you are dealing with human beings. So once someone is in custody, you don't continue to be mad because of how you had to get them into custody. That job is done. So then the next part of your training kicks in, the safely getting someone to the police department so they could be charged. When they came into Breonna's home, there was no humanity with the amount of bullets that ended up getting sprayed. No one was thinking about, I'm coming in to deal with human beings. That is the part that has to be addressed. Coming in, going forward, as police step into the precinct, coming out of the precinct, getting into a car, there needs to be something there to say, don't forget you're dealing with human beings. And everything that happens going forth, especially in Louisville, needs to be in her name. We're not doing this anymore because of Breonna. We're changing the way we train our police because of Breonna. That's how you keep her name alive. That's how she doesn't die in vain.
Thank you. So I'm going to do a quick last question for Regina and Chandra. What strikes you about this moment that we are in? For those of us, like, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I've never seen anything like it in terms of the energy, in terms of the passion, and like we're winning. Police-free schools, we're winning things as a movement. So just what strikes you about the moment? Let's do Regina and then Chandra again, and then we're gonna go back to Jesse.
I guess for me, the biggest thing, or the most striking thing, is that I've never in my life seen people in other countries go hard for Black people. Not American people, Black American people. And that makes me hopeful, because I believe that if we were not having this universal pause called COVID-19, the world would not have been watching. And not only were they watching, they're speaking up and speaking out on behalf of Black people. And that makes me hopeful.
Absolutely. The world response floors me every single day. But the thing that makes it so exciting for me is that I would get dismayed sometimes watching television and seeing people supposedly showing up and coming to support things that were so bad for us, and coming out in droves, coming out in big numbers. But that doesn't even compare to what's out on the street right now. And it has restored my faith that, oh, no, this country does want something good for us. This country does want us to be on the right track. More people are on the right side of humanity than are not. That is so encouraging to me. And as women, as mothers, as sisters, as aunts, especially mothers responsible for nurturing and worrying about our young Black men. I would love to see the day come where we don't have to sit down and give the talk to our sons, where they can go out into the world knowing that they don't have to think about the color of their skin. They are, and it's an amazing thing. And that, oh goodness, we as women, the way we support each other, the way we hold on to each other, Tasha, saying the things that you were saying about what she was ready to do, be a mother, be a wife. That's what we do. So the loss of that potential to for another giver in the world, yeah, we say her name, and we say all the names. We list the names, and we don't let people forget. No dying in vain. That just sticks with me over and over again. No dying in vain. Using those deaths to then create a world where we don't have to keep seeing the same thing over and over again.
Thank you. So Tahasha and Bianca, I just want to again send love to you all and hugs to you all before I give it to Jesse. I just want to like hold y'all up, send you some energy and some healing prayers to you and the family. And I'm just going to ask if we could actually all go off. This is not on the script, y'all, okay? Unmute ourselves. And I would like for us to say her name. Breonna
Taylor. Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor.
Taylor.
Thank you. Jesse.
All right. Breonna Taylor, thank you. Each and every one of you. That was incredible and important. Thank you. We're going to actually move to a couple more intimate thoughts from some of our guests. We're going to hear a few love letters from Tessa Thompson, from Ellen Pompeo, and from Taylor Page. We'll start with Tessa. Thank you.
All you can do every day is wake, pray, and slay. I read that was Breonna's motto, that was living the Bree way. I want so badly to write a love letter to you, Breonna Taylor. Your friends called you Bree, boss lady, breezy, and Nona. To the nation, however, your name has become a cry for justice. But justice is not an afterthought. Real justice is life. I set out to write a love letter, but I hate that your name is now emblematic of a breaking point in a history of invisibility. I remind myself sometimes in my rage to smile because your family said you always did. I set out to write a love letter to you, but one expression of love is truth, and here is a most urgent one. Black women cannot be an afterthought in this fight. We are the fight. Black trans women and men and those who are non-gender conforming must not be an afterthought in this fight. They are the fight. Those who live in the intersections of oppression must be our roadmap in how to end it. When I forget to smile, I look at a picture of you, Bree. I think first of one in particular. You're standing in front of the city seal, you're holding flowers. There you are in all of your essential worker glory. But then I remember that when you were just another Black body in bed with another Black body without your uniform, your Blackness made you disposable in the eyes of those men with impunity, but not to us. I like to look most at images of you in your Black girl glory with your sisters and your mother and your friends. Those make me smile most. Black women have always been most essential to this nation. You were always and forever will be so essential, Bree. So every day now, we, baby girl, we wake for you. We stay woke. We commit to opening the eyes of the nation and the globe. We pray for you. Protest and policy become our new form of prayer, and we slay for you. We slay every day a system of oppression that took you away, Breonna Taylor, and we will never stop saying your name. We love you.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Ellen Pompeo.
Hi.
Hi.
Ooh. My heart is beating so fast. And I'm so moved. I had something prepared, but Jesse, I can't bring myself to read it. I'm just going to speak from my heart because that's where I do best. I'm sorry. You can all sit here so strong and express yourself so strong and so poetically and be so brave every day in the face of your fear, in the face of your rage, in the face of your anger. I sit here with so much humility. And Bianca and Tahasha, you did such an incredible job of letting us know who Bree was. And I thank you for that, for being strong, so much stronger than I can be, and giving us your time and your spirit and conveying her spirit to us. What I would say to Breonna is that spirit will live on in all of us, and we will continue to do the work. We have so much work to do. And I take my position as an ally so seriously and with such humility. And your mom, Bianca, said that you love to bring people together, and you certainly have done that, Breonna Taylor. We will say your name, and we will remember that you were the one to bring people together. And by the way, we had something in common because I am famous for calling people out, despite them being upset with me. I say it like it is and then say, I would say it again. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but I feel like that's the truth. That is our common ground. And in the spirit of that, in the spirit of being able to say what people need to hear, here I am saying it loud. And I will not stop in your name, Breonna Taylor. I will continue on my path of allyship, speaking up and speaking out as loud as I can for whoever needs to hear it, and whoever doesn't want to hear it, they're going to hear it. And I just, I love you all so much. And Regina and Chandra, your words were so beautiful. And Tessa, my goodness. I'm just so happy and filled with so much love that I was invited to this. And Breonna Taylor, we will speak your name and continue the work, which will never end. But that's okay, because I'm here for it. We have that in common too, hard workers.
Thank you, Elle. Thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from Taylor Page.
I am asking you, Breonna, that your beautiful eternal spirit and love will carry us through and ultimately together. I can only hope that the gold that permeates through your DNA, our DNA, through our veins, that we will ascend beyond the stratosphere in all our glory. Shine on us, sister. We love you. We lift you up and we praise you. We are fighting for you, baby girl. I'm gonna fight the good fight every day for us Black women to feel heard and seen and valued and protected, but most importantly, celebrated. We celebrate you. We love you. Breonna Taylor.
Thank you. It's a hell of an emotional set this evening. We're going to keep it moving now. We're going to go to talk brass tacks, talk about local demands, talk about how we're moving forward, both at a local and national level. We're going to start with Kentora Haran of ACLU Kentucky and also Black Lives Matter Louisville, but talk with local demands first, and then we'll be followed by Movement for Black Lives with Chelsea Fuller. Kentora?
Yes, thank you all for having me again. And so we've heard some of the demands tonight. The first demand that needs to happen as soon as possible is a fire the police officers who was involved in the murder of Breonna Taylor. With that firing, they also need to lose their pensions. It is no longer should we as community members have to pay for their mistakes. And also they need to be arrested, charged, and prosecuted to the fullest extent. We've heard earlier in the call that from the beginning, the warrant was no good. And so we believe that they should be prosecuted for that. Also, as you see the shirts that we have on, No More No Knocks, we are calling to make no-knock warrants illegal and prohibited, not only in Louisville and Jefferson County, but also statewide. And so we actually have a hearing with our Metro Council on Thursday at 6 o'clock, and they will be voting on that. And we've been working all day to get the votes. And I think at last count, we were up to 12 votes. We need 14 votes to have that passed. And we are calling that Breonna's Law. As said before, we need to make sure that we keep her name going. And this is a situation about humanity. And we will be taking this also to the state level when our legislative session starts. And with that, we want to see a comprehensive bill that does have police accountability. And basically what that means is that the same way that us as citizens are held responsible if someone commits a crime and we're with them, police need to be held responsible as well. And so we also believe in the same breath that will help with the culture and climate of police departments. And so it's time to hold them accountable and for the police officers out there who are doing the things that they need to do. We also want to protect them so we can shift that whole culture of policing. We also are looking at creating civilian review councils with subpoena power. It does no good if civilians are reviewing investigations of police misconduct and they don't have power to prosecute or fire. And so we believe that that is important as well. We are looking at that the way it is in Kentucky, is that change has to be done on the state level. And so pretty much, what we're going to see here locally with Metro Council is the Breonna's Law ending the no-knock warrants, but we really are going to take this statewide, and we want to do a larger comprehensive bill and call it Breonna's Law. And also, and I know that somebody will talk about this, but we've also been seeing some of our federal legislators talk about ending no-knock warrants. But I encourage them, if they're listening and those who are listening, that this comprehensive bill needs to be called Breonna's Law. This law needs to be called Breonna's Law on the federal level, and that should include ending the no-knock warrants and also police accountability and divesting from the police department and investing back into our communities. It's time that we are able to have our communities back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That before we go to Chelsea Fuller from Movement for Black Lives, I just want to remind everybody listening at home or wherever you are, if you have any questions or thoughts, we very much look forward to hearing them in the comments on whatever platform you're watching us. Let us hear those questions so that we can address them at the end of this session, which is coming up shortly. So let's go to Movement for Black Lives and Chelsea Fuller for the listed demands.
Hey y'all, thanks again for welcoming me into the space, and to Breonna's family, please know that we are carrying her name with us in the streets. We're carrying her name with us everywhere we go in this fight toward justice and liberation. So sending love to you all. But again, my name is Chelsea Fuller. I'm the Deputy Communications Director of Blackbird, and I throw down with the Movement for Black Lives, a network of more than 50 organizations and leaders across the country who are fighting the fight for Black liberation every single day around the country. So for more than 2 weeks now, we've seen our folks in the streets, right, expressing their grief, their righteous anger and their pain around the unrelenting attack on Black bodies. And we're uplifting really comprehensive demands in this moment in defense of Black lives. We're calling for things like an end to the war against Black people, right? To end the criminalization and the incarceration, the killing of our folks. We're asking for something that a lot of folks in spaces where people are talking about the impact of COVID are also lifting up, right? Which is immediate relief for communities that are suffering, right? Things like providing direct cash payments to folks, ending mortgage payments in this moment, things like rent cancellation, so that folks can not just survive, but find ways to thrive in a moment when they're being not only disproportionately impacted by COVID, but by state violence at the same time. We're asking for several demands that you can find at m4bl.org. And the one that you're probably hearing the most about right now is the demand to defund the police. We're asking for folks to reimagine with us what a world without police violence, police terror, to imagine what that looks like. And we've seen comrades in places like Minneapolis win that fight, right? Where folks are divesting funds from police budgets and reinvesting money in our communities in ways of providing additional resources for housing, for healthcare, for education, for social workers. And that's something that is possible, right? And we know that folks have a lot of questions. We're hearing people ask, like, what does it mean to defund the police? Who's going to answer the phone if I call the police, right? But we're acknowledging that that's not something, these answers are complex. The work of going from living in a police state to living in a society where we have protection and safety that looks very differently, that's going to take time. But the big question is, right, how are we getting there, and what does that look like? But the reality is we've already lived as Black folks in this country in a society that has never really protected us and kept us safe. We live in a society where the majority of our city budgets are filled with allocations for police funding, while healthcare and other practices around safety are completely underfunded. We've never lived in a society that kept us fully safe. So increasing budgets around policing will not keep us safe. Data shows us that increasing police presence increases instances of police violence and police terror. So we're asking that folks stand with us in asking critical questions, looking at the budgets in our localities around the country to make decisions about how we want our money, the money that's being used to allegedly keep us safe. We want folks to work with us to figure out how that money should actually be used. It's possible for us to move toward liberation, and we're closer to it now than we've ever been. So please, please, please check out our website, m4bl.org. The comprehensive list of demands lives there. Also text DEFEND to 9095 for more information about how we're moving these demands forward, how we're continuing to interrogate questions and to move forward in really radical and transformative policies around how to keep our children safe, how to keep our loved ones safe, and how to move toward the world that we all deserve, which is one where we can live with humanity and in dignity and have what we need to live stable, healthy, and full lives. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Tracee. And thank you for speaking at some length about defund, because obviously it's an ongoing conversation, and we defund healthcare and education and push communities into food apartheids and all of this all day, every day. And we need to be putting safety first for people before tradition of oppression. And right now, what we're seeing around the world is actually humanizing and personifying, and actually seeing this as happening to real people with names and families and a childhood and loved ones. So we're taking advantage of this moment by really asking folks to really consider transformative change that puts human beings first, Breonna among them. So we're going to go on to hear from Sterling K. Brown, who's going to talk about a call to action, talk about a petition that we have for y'all, and go through it and ask you all to join us in signing it. I will also add now, and we'll put this up later, that you at any time can also call the Louisville City Council yourself. You can demand an end to no-knock warrants that Chanel and Cantora were just talking about. We'll put that number up, but it is 502-574-1100. Any of you can call and keep the pressure on. We have seen consistently that pressure does matter. That is how things change in this country, and we can no longer be inactive. So keep the pressure on, stay connected, and let them hear from you. So now we're going to go to Mr. Brown, talk about our call to action, and read the petition.
Right on. Thank you, Jesse, for the invitation too. And I just want to acknowledge something before I read the petition. If there was an unconscious parenthetical in the Black Lives Matter movement of male then here is to the destruction of that unstated parenthetical. Black, female, cis, trans, LGBTQIA. Black folks, we all matter equally. And so if that had existed, here's to the destruction of that parenthetical. That's it. Now I'm going to read like you asked me. So this is the demand, #justice for Breonna. Sign the petition to end no-knock raids and defund the police. Number 1, ban no-knock police raids in the name of Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor was killed by Louisville, Kentucky police when they shot her 8 times in her own house while she was asleep. Cops broke into her house in the middle of the night to do it. Her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, called 911 to report an intruder had killed Breonna. What gave police the right to enter her home with a SWAT team without warning? A no-knock raid. No-knock raids happen when cops ask a judge for permission to break into your home and search your house. Judges almost never reject these requests from cops. Cops then take SWAT teams with them wearing armors as if prepared for war. They use a battering ram or explosives to break down doors. They do not tell you that they are police. They use this violence overwhelmingly on brown and black people. These dangerous, unnecessary raids kill and injure thousands of people every year. Breonna Taylor is the most recent person who was killed by police during a no-knock raid. Never again. We demand a ban on no-knock warrants. Number 2, defund the police. There's an uprising in this country because of police violence against Black men and women. All over the nation, hundreds of thousands of people are in the streets demanding cities defund the police. We know that police don't keep us safe. As a nation, we spend almost $200 billion on police and jails. The only way to stop the racial profiling, harassment, and terrorizing of Black and brown communities is to defund the police. Public safety agencies in Louisville comprise 52% of its budget. By comparison, Louisville spends only 8% of its budget on public services. On one side, we have cops, courts, and jails. On the other, we have affordable housing, job training, and social services. Budgets are value statements. In Louisville, they value police over the basic services people need to keep themselves safe, healthy, and thriving. The purpose of Louisville's budget seems to be to put the most vulnerable people, especially Black people, in a crisis. This is a well-funded humanitarian crisis, and it's time for it to end. We demand no more money be allocated to Louisville police and that the current budget be cut and reinvested in Black communities. For more information about the call to #defund the police, go to www.8toabolition.com and www.m4bl.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling. Thank you. Make sure y'all find that link and join us. The petition matters. The numbers matter. Us representing ourselves and speaking for ourselves always matters. Okay, so before we go into our Q&A, I hope you all have submitted some questions, some thoughts, some challenges. We are going to go to our last 2 letters from Daniel Leon Davis, followed by Tracee Ellis Ross. We'll start with you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jesse. Dear Breonna, you should be here with us now. In reality, this should have been your birthday Zoom call for a chance to us to celebrate you in all your glory in the midst of this pandemic. I know that if you were here, you'd actually be helping to save lives, protecting us as Black women do every single day in this nation. But yet here we are, having to remind folks that you are more than just a name, more than just the pictures we've seen of you. You were human. Although they try to dehumanize your existence, we will not let that happen. Your murder will not and cannot be in vain. Instead, it has served and will continue to serve as a catalyst for us to create the desperate change we need in our community. Although you join a list of the many Black women, men, queer, trans, and gender non-conforming individuals killed at the hands of police, you bring a new light to our fire, a light we all feel yet can't describe. As a Latino, gay, formerly undocumented man, and as an ally, I can tell you that you will continue to be part of our collective story as a movement. We love you, Breonna Taylor. May you rest in power.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, we'll hear from Tracee now. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Okay. Breonna, I didn't know you, but you are my sister. I didn't know you, but I knew you because you are my sister. Your existence was inextricably tied to mine. Your freedom, your safety, your joy, your rest, your success was tied to mine. I know that if I saw you on the street, you would have reminded me that I was not alone, that my Blackness, my hips, my edges, and my roots, the legacy of my soul, my rhythm, had a sister in you. I say your name, Breonna Taylor.
Thank you, Tracee. Thank you, everyone. So we are going to now jump in with Judy Brown Diana. So we're going to go to some of these Q&A, to a Q&A session. So we'll pull some of the comments and questions that you've all listed. Judy, you want to take it?
Sure. So I have questions that came in, and we're going to keep it short because we have a little bit of time. We're supposed to be done at 9, so I'll field a few. So this is for Chanel in particular. We know that the often one of the obstacles to change around the police is the police union. Specifically, the Fraternal Order of the Police is one of them, one of the largest of the unions across the country. And that often, because of what's in their collective bargaining contracts, what they have done in terms of influencing legislation, they are protected. So what is happening with the union contract in Louisville that might provide an opening for justice or close the door for any opportunity for justice?
That is an absolute awesome question. I don't think a lot of folks know that police unions really actually keep a hold on the disaccountability that takes place with police forces. You're watching in real time as we're trying to hold some discipline on a rogue nature and behavior with police officers. And here we have the police union defending that. Someone's life has ended, and the police union is making that a clause to keep them employed. What we've seen happen is the start of the, I guess, negotiations. But that became open. The other day, Katura and 2 other BLM organizers, Celine and another fellow, as well as other folks who want to be a part of that process, and city council members met with them to begin their negotiations. It's been open for what, like 2 years, for a while. So it hasn't been closed. And it's all type of questions of like, really, what are y'all doing? I see this as an entry point as people are becoming to get educated around how specifically the police union operates, which operates differently than other police unions, where consensus is really forced. We really want to make sure that whatever is set for the standard operating procedure doesn't get, I guess, swindled a bit in that police union contract. A real goal would be like, abolish the police, right? We keep us safe. We have enough in our community to make sure that we can take care of each other. But that contract is really hefty. What did y'all do when y'all went to Franklin?
Yeah, so another part of it as well was that in Kentucky, there is pretty much a police bill of rights. And so when we're talking about police contracts and what police, what that accountability looks like, That's also a thing that we need to be looking at, is the police Bill of Rights and the protections that they have, not only from the FOP contracts, but also legislatively.
Great, thank you. So we did have some questions about what does it mean to defund and what is abolition of the police. So I would suggest for people that there are a few websites that you could go to. As I said before, as Jesse had mentioned, or actually I think it was Sterling, m4bl.org, which is the Movement for Black Lives.org. There's also a new website that has breaks down what abolition is, which is 8, the number 8, and then toabolition.com, which has some really good graphics. There's also a new video that was put out by Charlene Carruthers and Barbara Ransby, which you can find on YouTube, which is Defund. It's about Defund 101, and it'll take you through that. And actually on a Facebook Live show that we do at Advancement Project on Friday, it's called The SIP. We're both on YouTube and on Facebook Live. We're actually going to do a deep dive into what is the difference between defund and abolition, and we're going to have Barbara Ransby and Charlene Carruthers on. So you should definitely join us in that conversation. I have another question, and I want to just have maybe Jesse and I don't know, let's see, one of you, Tessa, let's pick Tessa. I wanted you to talk about just narrative, right? You all are in the storytelling business. And there are stories that get created about law enforcement in this country, right? And about crime and who's criminal. So what should folks in your world be doing with regard to that narrative? I don't know if I picked the I don't know if I picked the right two people. You all probably know who's better to answer this question, but I just saw two people sitting in front of me.
I'll defer to Tessa to start. If anybody, Chandra looks like she has something to say. Whoever has something to say, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot. I think we have a real responsibility. I think political change is always preceded by cultural change. And so you have to begin a cultural conversation. And it's really, hard for people when we ask for people to reimagine what policing looks like. If policing, in your estimation, has always felt safe and great for you, it's really hard to reimagine a system that protects all of us and particularly protects those of us that are most vulnerable. So I think we have a lot of work to do. And I know that there's lots of people on the ground in various pockets of the industry that are beginning that work, that are asking Hollywood to divest in police, and also, asking for a real robust call for the kind of content that we create, that it needs to be sensitive. I mean, you think of these long-standing shows that take this idea into the homes of America and globally, that police are the good guys that are there to support you. We don't follow the people who they enact violence on. We don't follow their narratives and understand their story and see their humanity. So, I think it's been a time of reckoning, not just globally, but certainly in this industry. And we have so much work to do. We really do.
I just want to say, Leslie Max says, #Copaganda. So does anyone else want to weigh in on this?
I think it was 14, wasn't it, just that we did the episode where Ben and Bailey had to sit tucked down.
Yeah.
The talk. And I had, at least 8 of my white female friends over a period of time, after either seeing the episode or being there when we shot it, that said, is that real? Do you really do that? And so that reality for a Black home, that reality for Black parents when dealing with our children, when having to equip children, having to take that innocence away in order to equip our children what they need to do when they come into the presence of police. It is something that must happen, but it really, I know it certainly tears my spirit. And that was something important for us to show on the show, because realizing that people did not know or do not know that that's conversations that we have to have. So that was one collective way to be able to use the medium in order to put us all at the same level and start to generate empathy, start to generate what it must be like to walk in somebody else's shoes. It's when you get to that point that you start making change person to person, and that's how you can have millions of people walking the streets at the exact same time, because that empathy exists.
I'll expand on that, and then I see Tracee has her hand up. Whether we like it or not, and sometimes we like to minimize what comes out of Hollywood or amplify it based on our agenda, the truth is that the media is the news for the vast majority of the planet. It is the way in which we see people, we see human beings, we see cultures, we hear accents, we learn about geography. We certainly don't know a damn thing about geography in this country. We learn through the media and characters. And if there's a human being, to Chandra's point, people love Grey's Anatomy. Sometimes they think they say they think they love us. Let's see if you love us. What if I tell you a little bit about what my life is like? What if Chandra's character has to go through something that you can't imagine, or that would have been really convenient for you to feel like it hasn't happened in 50 years? Do you still love us then? Do you love my family? Do you love my cousins? How much of us do you love, and for what purpose? I think our responsibility is immense. And Black folks in Hollywood have a tremendous pressure on them. We are fighting for, I'll leave myself out of it because I'm kind of in a separate category, but actual dark-skinned, brown-skinned actors in this community have a double-edged sword where there's far less work. The vast majority of that work is destructive towards your own community. In some way, it's irresponsible at the very best. It's reductive. You're demonstrably simple and underwritten. So, but you need a job and you have a rent to pay. And maybe if the amount of times I've had conversations with my family in this business who have had to decide, this job seems kind of problematic, but I haven't worked in a while. This could help me get to the next gig though. So how much of myself do I have to chop off to keep putting myself forward to try to wait to make it? Well, the rest of the community the rest of Hollywood gets to just do things they enjoy and have a whole movie about something else, walking a dog or not getting into college. And we are in the struggle Olympics over here, trying to put one foot in front of the other. And then on top of that, having to say, you know what, I would love to have this opportunity, but it's a little racist. I would love to have this opportunity, but at what point it's like being at a party with folks are you the one that has to interject and kind of stop the party to point out something that's wrong? Are you the angry Black woman? Speaking of women and their representation, it's incredibly complicated, but the responsibility doesn't change. We are seeing, these large studios claim to show an interest in being more responsible, and this goes beyond domestic representation, but also the world over. We got to stop having movies that show Africans in the way that they do, showing brown people in the way that they do, completely rewriting history as to what this imperialist country does around the world. All of these things. So it's all at play. The responsibility is ours, and us being a collective that is able to stand up and support each other when we need to say no to a job and be able to articulate why in a way that we still feel safe and buoyed up and held up and check on each other more. That's all I'll say for the moment. Tracee, I think you had your hand up.
I did. I just wanted to say specifically in this conversation that we're having about Say Her Name, the reality of what it is for us as Black women to be able to tell our own stories, to not have our stories told through the voice of men or Black men or anyone else, but let us say our stories through our own voices. And I think that I hate when it goes where I can't see everybody. There we go. I like to talk to everybody. I just think the more that we continue to speak our own stories, we cannot be erased and nullified in what the message is that we need to be sharing. I think of Breonna and I think of the fullness of what her family on this call has shared with us, and that she is not just a name. We are so many things, and getting to be able to share that allows all of us to see each other as fully who we are.
Yeah, we're seeing that also. And I will say, with all this considered, that I'm also incredibly optimistic. We have a real cadre of, however, identifying in every way, Black folks making product now. We have more outlets than ever and incredible content coming out. And having us really consider what is the value what is Black media, what is a Black film? Is it the writers, the director, is it the actors? What constitutes that? To what degree does it matter? But also all of these things are not only in service to us, they're in service to the world. And we are here today because there's a power structure in place with its boot on our neck. So the owner of that boot, we need to have their ear as much as we have our own. I see a hand from Sterling, and I think Taylor might have something to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, in terms of media representation of police, I find it very interesting in all of your favorite television shows, and this goes to the hashtag propaganda. Even you like the show, the most vilified part of the police department is internal affairs. The rat squad is always like, the people are like, why are you trying to tear us down? Why are you trying to how come you can't be a real cop or whatever? So in terms of putting media out there that addresses the blue wall of silence and saying you know what, you need to be accountable. This group of people is trying to do a job that is really, really important, and seeing them sort of lifted up instead of this constantly doo-dooed on. I mean, that's just a thought that I had in my mind. So.
And lastly, I think we all, as people of color, deserve to exist as a blank canvas. It's so often that a white woman gets to be victimized or pursued, or but we are the other, or it complicates it. This is going to complicate the storytelling. We deserve to be a blank canvas and tell the story, and also go at why it is complicated. Why can't we? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why it is complicated and go directly at it. This is more so toward white directors and writers who are interested, but not interested enough to put you in that position.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I just want to add to that really quick, because I've had the unique opportunity that over the past 10 years, I've been able to do content that deals specifically with this, 7 Seconds, American Crime, Watchmen, If Beale Street Could Talk. All of those projects definitely specifically are focusing on this conversation that we're having right now. And I'd want anyone out there that are the white directors, white writers, Black male writers, Black female writers, white female writers, to continue, that the ones that I've been a part of those projects, continue to keep writing, but those that are shying away, please be allies, like you see Ellen Pompeo spoke so eloquently and passionately about on this call, on this Zoom meeting. It's important that you continue to be allies, and when you are the head of the show, make sure that you have other voices and writers in the room that can actually tell the entire story. And I just wanted to say that because I've had the opportunity to be able to be a collaborator on those projects and been able to say, oh, no, that's not right. We need to change it to this. And so while there is evidence that there's an audience that will respond to content that is actually sharing our stories, we need the people that are writers and directors to be encouraged to continue to write and direct them.
Yeah, the key word there, collaboration, not just a for-hire consultant or a chime-in last minute, actually in partnership. We talk about an ownership position, decision makers. How many decision makers you have? Don't count the janitor as for your diversity hire. How many people are actually informing and influencing the material? So we unfortunately have to wrap up. I want to quickly just thank each and every one of you on the call, and as importantly, everybody who took the time and energy to listen, and especially those who are going to take this information and share it outward. So, Advancement Project, I want to thank the entire team there for their work. Please follow us. Please support us as we support you. Chanel and Kentora, we cannot say enough about you as individuals and your organization. Y'all are kicking ass for all of us that we cannot begin to describe the tireless work. Well, it ain't tireless because y'all are tired, but the incredible work, the incredible sacrifices y'all make day to day to get this done. And we do our very best, and we can do better about lifting this up. You just direct us and we'll be your support system. So that's Black Lives Matter Louisville, our co-hosts, each and every one of y'all on the call. I also just want to acknowledge that we are here to center the lives and the losses of Black women in this struggle. That's what brought us here today. We are mourning Breonna Taylor, mourning with her family and for her family. We are also mourning George Floyd and the so many countless others that have been stolen from us, whether you are on the front page or not. You matter, you count, and you drive us forward. We're going to stay vigilant. We're going to stay informed. We're going to stay ready for radical change. We cannot be divided. All right. So when you look at these numbers and spreading the word and getting allyship, it's about getting a critical mass. A critical mass is what moves culture forward. So we have to make sure we're understanding that, because culture steers all of this. Policy matters. We know that I certainly care about that, but it's our culture, what we're allowed, what we're willing to accept, what we're willing to tolerate, and for who. And you can't unlearn history and context. So this is why we always lead with that. This is why it's so important to say their names, to establish that these are not one-offs, these are not flukes, these are not part of our fucking imagination. Okay, it's really happening. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you.
We love you, Bianca and Tahasha.
We love you, Bianca and
Taylor
Tahasha.
family.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
We'd love to hear family for us. For
We lift you
everybody.
up.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all. We love you too.
Thank you all so
everybody.
much. We appreciate everything you've done for your fighting and commitment to our family. We appreciate everything.
Love.
Love you, Bianca. I love everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.